With event registration, you can also click, when we set up the online tool, it doesn't have to be online giving all the time. Like my chili cook-off, they don't pay to do the chili cook-off. So you have the option of it to being a free event or a paid event. If it's a paid event, when we're in Web Ministry Tools and we click the box for it to publish to engage, and we'll show you this as it goes. When they go to their Engage account, they can see that event. And if they pay a partial payment on that event, they can go back next week and pay another partial payment to that event because they're logged into their Engage account. It's their registration. That being said, if they don't log into their Engage account and they register, it's not their event registration for Engage. Does that make sense? Like you've got to have in Engage, make that partial payment if you want to go back and make another, all right? Because if you don't and they go back and go to make another payment, they just start registering again. And now you have another registration. And it's so much fun. It's not impossible. We've had to move payment methods or payments and stuff into one. I really just don't encourage that because it can be hard to do. You get, 200 people registering and they keep re-registering because they're making payments on their gift. And it's like, why didn't you just log into your Engage account? Quit. Mail me a check. At this point, it will help me if you mail me a check. So I wanted to kind of say those things. The possibility is great. It allows you to tailor it to however you want it. And that's what's so nice. CDM across the board, while it has its structure, it still allows you to personalize it, like changing the terms for the fields or different things like that. It allows you to have some freedom while still staying within that structure. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so when we walk through that, basically if they're going to register, their first time they register, they need to log into their Engage account, and you'll see when I show you there's an event section. So the question is, how do we tell them to go to their Engage? When you'll see then if they log into their Engage account, events is going to pop up that you guys haven't seen yet because there's not an event created published to Engage. So when it is, if they log into Engage, they click the menu, you're going to see events. And then when they click it, it'll show all the events. But then there's also a section that says My Events. And you can click and see the events that you've registered for in the past. And then they could go and they could make their payment. They need to create an Engage account through your website or through the link and stuff. If they don't have an Engage account, they have to have an Engage account. If they want to go online and make payments. If they don't want to make payments, they don't have to have an Engage account to do it. It's if they want to make payments and you want it to go against that registration. Okay? Let's start a registration. I see so many wheels going of, man, this is going to be great come camp. Yes.
The problem with making an Engage account, like we did the QR code ministers meeting, we wanted all of our ministers to make their Engage account, to make sure their stuff was updated so that we weren't outdated because they don't call the state office.
Never.
And I took all this time to do the step by step. There's too many steps to make an Engage account. Not one person. They're like, nope, it's too much. Especially even my husband, he's the state youth director.
Listen, yeah, I get it, especially, the guys especially. No offense, guys. When it comes to more than about 2 steps, they're out. They aren't doing it. There are some, but you guys saw me create that account for Jake on his. And let me show you. So the question or the thing was, there's a lot of steps to create the Engage account. If you have their information in there, well, that's not what I wanted. And you're going to create an account. let's do, I don't think I got one in that. So I have the email address in there. So now I can just say, yep, this is me. So when I click it, it emails me that code. I just go out to the email, I click that link, my account's created. That's it. So again, it's very important to make sure that you have emails in there, because if not, they do have to put in their information because the system doesn't have their information. And so then here's that, click the email and I can create my password with it.
Another issue is you've got people that are registering their kids for camp, and they have 47 different emails that they've used, and they don't ever, it's just.
It's hard. So when you have, whoops. And that's where you've got a lot of parents that are registering kids for camp. It's not that they don't have to have an Engage account in order to register. But if they want to make payments on it, then they can, online payments, then they would have to do it. It's just one of those perks. If you want to make online payments, then you need to create an Engage account. And as a mom, if I want to do it online, I'm going to create my Engage account. And if not, then I'll mail my payments in or what have you. So it is just one of those bonuses and perks of having an Engage account. But notice I've completed setting up the Engage account. So it's hard because if you don't have the email address, you do. And the extra step that it takes is putting in your information, like your name and address and so on. That's the extra step that it takes in order to create the Engage account if you don't have that email address. So it has you look for it first, and then it goes on. Good questions with that. All right, let's start with creating an event. So if you're going to start creating events, you'll go to Programs, Event Registration, and Event Records. So an event record is the event. It's the actual event. It is not the registrations. It's the actual event. So you simply click Add. Then we type in a description. If you want to type in the location, you can do that. If this is a camp or youth event, you can add that. It adds a little more extra things like my brain, it's the afternoon, but like parents and stuff like that. It gives you some different things like that. When the registration is totally over with, you can close it. It's like clicking Do Not Print on an individual record. It just hides it away by default, okay? Also, if you didn't put an end date and you only put a begin date, if you close it, they can't go in and register. So they can't go 3 months after the event was over, you forgot you didn't put an end date, and they find the link somehow and they register randomly for something that's definitely old. Registration closed will prevent that as well. So it's just a do not print type of a thing. You can put the begin date. If you want a specific time set in there, you can do the time and the date. And that just gives you just more and more information as far as that goes. If you don't include the time, then that's it. So we'll set our date for October 24th through 27th. Registration deadline, we'll just make it the 23rd, the day before. Apparently, I'm pretty confident in that. If you have a fee, here's the thing with this fee. The fee is the base, so however much, down payment is required. You can leave this blank and require an activity that has a fee. So, and as we go into this does not have to have an amount. If camp is $100 and you put the $100 in there, it's been a hot minute since camp was $100, but let's just say it is. You put the $100 here. When they register online, they have to pay, it's going to have them $100. If camp has different amounts, because certain camps maybe are a little longer than others and things like that, then as you'll see, we're going to create an activity for each of the camps with that amount for each of those camps. So then they can select which camp they're registering that kid for, and that gives them that amount. So in other words, if I have 3 kids that I'm registering for, one's senior high, one's junior high, and one's kids, well, in Ohio, kids camp is just a few days. It's not long. It's not as pricey as senior high, who's a whole week. And so I can click in there, and it will add that up together for my thing. So you just want to keep in mind the registration fee is basically it's the base fee with no activities selected to add to it. Okay? If you're doing a maximum registration, you want to put that in here. Once you hit that max, it won't let them register beyond that amount of people. Okay? If it is a paid thing, you can, what income account do you want it to go to? So in this case, we want it to go to, let's see, who do we want to give all the income to for it? We'll do Pentecost offering, why not? And then our fee account, so when our fees come in, where do we want our fees to go? We want to put those in here. We'll just do, I always hate randomly selecting. It's always funny to me. So you put your fee account and you put your payment. Anytime they register, whether manually or online, and you put in their payment, it's going to go to that income number. Now, it's going to go to this income number online when you process it from deposit processing that I'll show you tomorrow. It's going to go to that and the expense number. If you manually do it, unless you post it, it doesn't touch your accounting. So you got to post the payments. And again, that'll make sense more tomorrow, but you got to post it or else it's not going to. Posting tells whether you're posting from payroll or contributions or receivables or event registration. When you post it, it puts it into the ledger, which is like your checkbook. Very big checkbook on a lot of more bells and whistles than a paper checkbook for sure. But that's what posting does. So unless you do it, it's not going to show there. But when you do it, it's going to go to the accounts that you have set here. Okay? Any questions so far? Good. Quiet means you're absorbing. That's good. Activities. This is where it's unlimited, really, in so many ways. You can do a lot. So with activities, think of it this way. Think of like, let me go to my chili cook-off, a little simple chili cook-off. In there, I have a category for chili, and under that category, hot and mild. My activity in my category says chili, and then underneath it, it gives them the 2 options for hot and mild. Then I have an activity for like sides, and then it gives them options for sides. You see what I mean? So let's think. If we have a category for camp, it doesn't exist, so yes, I want to create it because you can reuse these categories and stuff. So with camp, we want to do kids camp. Let's do another one. Oh, then we want to do junior high. And senior high. Let's just spell. And so because they're going to be under the same category, when we do it online or we print something, I can print the category camp and it's going to give me everybody that registers for it. Or when they're online and they go to do it, I can see camp, and then as subcategories, I have my 3 camps. Okay? So the category is like a header with it, and then underneath it, you have all that information. You can do a capacity per camp if you wanted to do that. So like senior high camp might have a capacity of, 200 kids. But kids camp, maybe it can take more. Maybe you do it in a different location, things like that. So you can do it that way. You can add things like here they have allergies, t-shirt size. Let's do that. So we have t-shirt size. So then you could do small, add another, medium, it's a t-shirt size. You see how you're just, remember when I first started today, and I've said it a few times, when you're setting up, whether you're setting up accounting, or you're setting up membership, or you're setting up event registration, or contributions, or what have you, what do you have to keep in mind? The end. Think with the end in mind. What information do I need? What output am I going to need for this? So a camp. All right, what will I need? I want t-shirt size. So then do I want to have them type it in? And then I have to go through the notes in the report, and I can print, they said t-shirt, and I look at the notes and I count how many were medium, and then I look at the notes and I count how many were large. I don't want to do that. I don't know about you guys, but come camp time, I was drowning. I mean, come on, it's insane. It's like this weird, fun, crazy, you're losing your mind but having a blast at the same time insane. Camp is great, but I don't want to be going through notes of 200, 400 registrations and count how many says medium. So because of that, thinking the end in mind that I'm going to need to know how many mediums, how many smalls, how many adult larges, you see what I mean? So because of that, I want an activity for each, because then I can print a report on that activity. So when you're setting, this is why now you see the endless possibilities and why I'm like, we will not hit every single scenario. There is no way, because it's endless. What information do you need? Medical. You want allergies? Well, we're not going to type every possible allergy they have and let them click it. I mean, have at it. You can do that, but I don't need a report like that. I bet you could. Say you wanted to have them check, Mark, because you have a large camp, and you want to have them check that they have a bee sting allergy or a peanut allergy, so that you could just quickly grab a report that anything that has bee. You could do that. I would recommend just putting in notes, have them list their allergies, and then you could do like a search or something like that. But so that's where you think with the end in mind. When they're registering, you don't want this exhaustive list of just never-ending check boxes that they are constantly having to do and information that they have to give. But yet there is a lot of information that we do have to have for camp or women's events, women's retreats. We don't need a ton of information for that, but I sure would like to know if there's food sensitivities and what your food sensitivity is. Is there an allergy? What is that food allergy? So that I know we might need to take care of somebody that's got gluten-free. You see? So I might only need how many people are in their rooms. Are you getting 1 to a room, 2 to a room, and so on. And if you have allergy, any kind of food allergies, that might be the only piece of information you need to know. Well, then that's the only activities that you need. And yes, you can add activities as you go. I don't recommend that because you're having them register. You should have your form. So think with the end in mind. What type of reports do I need to print? What type of things would help us with camp? And then generate it from there. What kind of activities do I need? Does that make sense? And you can categorize it all you want. It's again, and you'll see when we do it online, it's like little headers and then underneath. And when you do it online, you can require notes so that they have to have them. They can't work around it. It is required for them to have those notes in there. That tea definitely can't be good. So you want to go ahead and you want to set your capacity if you need that for shirts. You want to set your category. If it's, something with a director for a specific, event that has multiple things going and you're attaching that category. It's just you've got these informations that you could have. What building is this particular event in? So maybe they do multiple things, like they're registering for a tools conference. and certain sections of that tools conference are in different buildings, you could put that building in here for that particular section. Your children's, tools conference children, the building is in this building. It's just giving you more information that you can add to it. Any questions?
There was a question about if there was a price
Yeah.
for a t-shirt.
My thing wasn't spread out, sorry. So if there's a price, so let's do for kids camp, for example. Let's say the kids camp is $100. You have, $120 for junior high, $150, and let's say our shirts are $5 shirts. I'm sure they're more than that. Well, let's just say they're $5. We're only going to give 3 options just for the sake of time. So now, notice I did not put a fee here. I could put $25, and that's the registration fee. But remember, if I did that, and they clicked for them to go to kids camp, how much will they owe? $125, because that registration fee is there. So those are the things you need to think about. If you're going to put a registration fee in, maybe you don't need this. Or you see what I mean here? Your women's retreats, the prices are different per room. Well, I don't need a base registration fee because I need them to click because it costs X amount if you have 4 to a room. It costs this much if you have 2 to a room. And so I want to set my prices here. And then it can add together. Okay? Great question. Anybody else before we move on? Yes?
So most of the time what we run into is churches want to bring one check for their whole church to camp. How would you set that up in there?
So the question is, a lot of times churches want to bring one check to camp for all their kids. That's actually to camp, though. They've already registered, correct? So here's the deal with this, with churches in registering. When you're registering a person, they're filling out an individual. And I ran into this even doing Access. I don't think I could even navigate that program now. It's been so long. But when they're paying, you know how you can see, here's my church's balance, and it gives you each of the children and what their balance is. Well, when they pay at camp their church check, I don't put it manually to each child because the church is paying off the balance. And then during camp, we'll go through and zero that out. So you could do that. In each registration, you would have to put that they did it and tie it to the same check number. That being said, right now with online payments, if you have a church that pays or registered multiple attendees, and they've made that payment, yes, it will break that payment down for each of those attendees for each thing. But right now, they can't quite go into, if the youth pastor goes into his Engage account and clicks on the event he can't choose like what child he wants that payment to go to, because he wants to say, like, a kid gave them money to pay off the rest of their balance. Well, he was going to go online and wants to pay that balance off. He can't do that because each person is registered now. Now, there is a story created for that enhancement to where they can do that. They can see if they registered multiple attendees, that somehow they can go in and do it that way. So those are the things that they're working on adding, or at least I have asked them to work on adding. So I know it'll get on their board, but those are those enhancements that are great to have, because more and more we have people that just register all of their kids at one time. Great. Well, they're fundraising, and they don't want to keep a hold of that money anymore. And so they want to give you, I've always had them, they would mail a check, and they would have like a sheet of paper, and it had the list of their kids. Well, I can go in, and I'll pay off that kid or put that amount on that child, and I'll show you how we would do that in that registration manually. But they right now can't do that online, okay? not unless that child had that engaged account, that child registered, and so on. So it's something that's coming, but you can manually do it. But if you wanted to show after camp that each child is paid for, you would have to go to each child and do it paid for. Typically what we would do in Ohio, I just knew that it wasn't, and I marked it off. I kind of didn't mess with that, because after that, I was kind of done. But if I needed to, I would. So the question is, when they do give you a list of the kids and the amount that's going towards them, say like it's not camp time quite yet, and they're just wanting to pay it down, because I know we all have gotten that before. Is there a way to sort it by church? And when we go to register and put things in, I'll show you what is currently available. And then we can create some stories for our wonderful developers if there are things like that that it's like, you know what, that would be great if we could enhance this or enhance that. That's not a problem. They love that kind of stuff. Yes, so the question is, if the youth pastor goes on and registers for a bunch and makes that payment, will it separate them? And yes, it will separate based on what you choose, and you'll see that here in a second when we get that all registered. What it doesn't do right now for online is allowed to go back and add more and separate more. Does that make sense? Like, he can't go in and see a list that he's already registered and put how much he wants to put against that. If the event's free, you just don't put any fees on anything, and they can just sign up. So if you're doing just a free thing and you just need to know how many's coming, you just fill out whatever information and they just sign up. They don't have to deal with anything else as far as that goes. Now, I have everything created. I'm just going to deal with what camp and what t-shirt size. I could go with like room suggestions, and actually let's add that. Like, let's add rooms. And so with this, at least there were times that we would say they could write in, what child they would like to be in the room with at camp and things like that. So let's just do rooms. Yeah, thank you. Y'all can tell. Room a preference. It's the afternoon. I'm liable to spell something completely backwards. You never know. All right. So I do want to add that. Now, it got me to roommate. So we've got that. Now we want to register some people. We got all of our applications. These have been mailed to us. These are not online giving applications. This is just something that has been mailed to us. I want to manually put it in. So you're going to go to the registration entry. And with the registration entry, you just simply click add or multi-add, but you got to find the event that we're looking for. So in here, this is the event that we're working with currently. So I'm going to click add. And it's going to say, because I did not tell it to skip individual lookup, it's saying, okay, well, who are they? You could tell it to skip individual lookup, and it will not bring that window up every time. I like having mine connected to individual records. However, with camp, you might not want to do that, because chances are 90% of those kids you do not have in your system as far as the membership side of things. And so with that being said, you can simply click here and the skip individual record lookup, and it will go away. Okay? For the sake of this, I'm going to leave it on. So we're going to register my daughter. It would help if I had it for her last name. So we'll register her. Because I did connect it to individual records, it does automatically fill that information in. But again, think with where are you going to be? Do you have all those kids in there? You can close it. You don't have to.